For me, it's quite poignant that we talk about reconnecting adults with nature in a very subversive way.
I think adults are obviously so passionate about their children. My kids are now 8 and 10. So I spend all my time making them happy, I guess. So a lot of times we are in the outdoors, but the outdoors need to be engaging for me then as well. Otherwise, it becomes nearly like, not a burden, but it becomes this thing, oh, I just did that, but then I'm sitting at the skate park, but there's nothing for me to do. So after like 45 minutes, I go like, come on guys, that's enough. You did your workout, let's go home. But how do we make sure, and I guess that's this research I'm doing with QT there, how do we design spaces that are intergenerational? So actually by mid next year, we will publish new guidelines and to make sure when we design parks that some of the key principles are addressed. What the research found out over the last 3 years that we did in 12 different parks within Moreton Bay Regional Council was like the key ingredients was to have proper pathways. So pathways are really important to get all age groups to go into the outdoor environment and experience, I guess, nature as well. Then we got higher percentage of people enjoying that walk or that experience, the more green and the more blue. So water bodies, the more canopy, the natural shading, the experience on the pathways. And I think in Australia, another thing we do really well, we do multi-generational parks. We go into a park and yes, there's something for everyone, but it's all fragmented. And I think that's another thing where I think we can learn so much from permaculture principles. Build environment to create microclimates, but they all need to, and zones, but they all need to be integrated and connected. So when I meander through a space, I can be with my 6-year-old and my 12-year-old in a space together and we all have a great time. To get adults back into the spaces as well, we have to make sure it's playful. The older we get, we use our playfulness. So we really think like it's not appropriate to balance on a bench or on the curbing. And I think when we all have kids, suddenly we are allowed to do that again, which is great. But then the kids grow older and suddenly you go again like, oh, no, how do I do that? And the older we get, then we suddenly are not even allowed to go to some of the spaces because we fence them off. So we have now these playgrounds that are fully fenced off. So if I'm an elderly person and I go for a nice walk, and what is nicer than to have a chat to the young generations about my experiences and hearing from them. And it's all about joy of life. So they are smiling, suddenly I smile, then they tell me about, oh, what is this? Or that is the leaf from this kind of tree. So we're sharing all these things, but we don't allow that because it's fenced off. So how do we create these purposeful connections for older people as well and adults to meander through that space? So my philosophy is I talk about secondary and tertiary pathways. So it could be that we have in our main parks, like mindfulness walks. And they actually, so you actually meander on a smaller pathway through the park and that actually leads you through the playground as well. How beautiful would that be? So I have a purpose. So it's not like, oh, why is this elderly person walking through our play space? Is he like, this is weird. He doesn't even have grandkids with him. No, he can because it's designed for that as well. And then it's okay. And because I think that's another thing as well. Our perceptions always people are bad and they're not. It's like, I really believe people are fantastic. So we just need to allow everybody to flower and to come out of the shell. So it's all about the design and the affordances we provide that people can freely enter into that space, and then they will appreciate nature so much more. They will appreciate the joy of seeing the kids playing in the Driver Creek bed and finding little animals, and then they're coming back and share that enthusiasm for nature again with the adults, and then they get excited about it again as well. When I was in my 20s and I did all my permaculture studies, like from a spiritual level, like I was so much more connected to nature, to earth, to why our purpose on this. And then suddenly, yeah, you start your profession. Yes, we have to make money. Yes, then we have kids. It's even more pressure. And then we have all these roles. We are a husband, we are a father, we are a friend, we are a colleague, we are a boss, whatever we are. So that suddenly you lose this connection. The older we are getting, we lose connection to nature. But I think the youth can bring that back up. And that's another frustration I have, for example, with permaculture gardens and with community gardens. The community gardens are purely designed, again, northerly gardens, beautiful example there. That is actually a good one there because they have play experiences within that. But a lot of our community gardens here in Brisbane, it's purely designed then that you go there and you have your raised veggie gardens and the early generations go there and yes, they do their harvesting and stuff like that, but there's nothing playful. So it's really like, again, yeah, great, we can control that. This is something where I plant, then I harvest, then I prepare it and I leave. So why not having play activities there? So suddenly my grandkids or my kids would love hanging out there because they can be on a seesaw, they're swinging from trees, and then they're talking to elderly people. They tell them about the beans and what they just harvested. So I really think like we just have to be more creative how we create spaces and not always look at this. What is this purpose? Community garden, it's a garden. Everything needs to be more than just this one thing that we are designing.
Perfect. Thank you.
It's about the layers that we apply to a space as well. So a lot of times we are so driven by, I guess, our visual sense. So we want to have something beautiful and it needs to be inviting. And then the next thing is it needs to be functional. Yes, we're doing the permaculture gardens because we want to produce a product. So we want to have then something healthy to eat and stuff. But how do we actually put the other layers in there? A step back, have a breathe, drink a cup of coffee, and really look then at the design and go like, did I really look at the sense of place? What do we want to achieve here? And how do we have different layers in there so that it becomes purposeful for all generations as well? So to be quite honest, for a child, it doesn't matter if the spinner looks like a compass, a pirate ship and all that. So at the end of the day, they just want to spin on it. But then when we put other layers to it, if we then say, okay, it is actually, for example, the spinner, it has on the side like an arrow, and then on the ground plane we have like a compass, and then it goes into a direction, then it gives you tasks. So suddenly other people, it's a little bit like Simon Says. So you start this game and suddenly the game evolves itself. So we give different clues about this environment as well. And then we can have a layer of history in there. So what was actually the indigenous vegetation that grew here in the past? So a lot of people would be interested in that. If you're not interested in that, that's fine. It doesn't hurt. But all these clues and simulations are in there so that every space we design has all these underlayers designed in it, and people will find the right choice. And I think that goes to my passion about inclusivity. Because I think, again, when you look at inclusion, a lot of times, yes, we look at the universal design guidelines. So we know now 1 in 80 has autism, 1 in 20 sensory processing disorder, demographic change. So we have people with dementia. We have so many more sensory high need in our society, and we don't even understand that. So I think there's a big push to get health professions be part of the design process and then to work in a collaboration to really develop and design the spaces that are truly inclusive, truly sustainable. And again, have the big vision like permaculture has, to have a permanent agriculture, to have something that grows. It's not a finished product we are designing. It's actually a start to give the framework, and then it will evolve. And if we get more people also involved through the process, that will help us to get this attachment to the place. And then you have less vandalism. You really have the community truly engaged. And I think, again, Robin Francis did an amazing job there at her village in Nimbin, because the people really did buy in. And she got international people coming there. A lot of them never left because they felt like part of that community and being in there. So I think the earlier we get the community in and really let them be part of that journey, then we create something truly purposeful.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you so much for talking with me today.